Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Freak Sense TV. I'm your host, Charlie Freak, and on the show today, we have a very special guest. This is Mimi Gund, and Mimi is the author of a really amazing book, and it's called How to Breathe Like a Yogi, All You Need to Know. Now, Mimi and I are friends, and we know each other fairly well um, via different aspects within this just myriad of what truth is and how it encompasses all aspects of our reality. And then through our friendship, Mimi identified about herself that she was an author and that she had done this book. I've read a sample section of it, but I apologize for not having the time to have read the entire book. But it is from all the instruction that I've garnered over the years, and then of course what I practice and what I teach. This is someone who absolutely is a master, knows this information inside and out, and that's why when Mimi suggested that she would like to do the show, I was really excited because, as most of you know, Colleen and I are really passionate about meditation and the sacred importance of your breathing. And just to really sort of start the show off on the right foot, let me just say this. Remember that we exist within two realms. If you wish to fight this, it doesn't change the fact that it's the truth. As the Buddha said, you can either accept the truth and flow with it, or you can spend your entire life fighting against what is. What is that you exist physically and you exist metaphysically. And the metaphysical realm is actually the higher realm, which is the all-encompassing realm. And that when we begin to investigate our reality, it's actually our physical realm that begins to lose its luster. when we begin to look inside and we begin to deeply explore what's inside of ourselves, which is what we are, and it appears that this mass solidity that we cling to is actually mostly empty space, and therefore that space is all important in terms of the state or the frequency in which we keep that space. Because as Nikola Tesla said, this is very important. I'm really pleased that we're opening the show this way so everybody keeps this in the forefront of your mind, is this. As Tesla said, everything is energy. Okay, so whether it's the metaphysical or physical realm, everything is energy. Therefore, everything is frequencies and then either vibrations or pulses. So everything is about your frequency. And if your physical realm, which are your cells, which is the matter within you versus the light above, then if that is all energy and therefore frequency, then it's so important to tune in on what it is that you want out of life instead of always focusing in on what you don't want in life. And that is a frequency. And it's as simple as putting it this way. For people who do the work, such as Mimi and humbly I'll suggest myself and Colleen, we tune in to say 105.3 FM. and that's a pretty goodly godly station. Whereas the vast masses of the world are tuned in to 610 AM radio, and that's talk radio. And every single day, it is just chaos. And that's not where you need to be. If you want to see God on channel 9, you shouldn't be tuned in on channel 2. It literally is that simple. And I think this is going to be the heart and soul of our show today. So with all of that, let's bring Mimi into the show today. And Mimi, please share with us a little bit about yourself and the inspiration for writing this incredible book.
Well, thank you so much, Charlie, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I, just very briefly about myself, I've been teaching yoga for about 14 years. I teach at our local college here, and I teach at a large medical fitness center that's attached to our hospital here. And so I, right off the bat, right out of the ashram, when I got my teacher's certification, it was like I had a naturally chosen specialty, and that was breathing. And it wasn't, they did emphasize breathing. We did learn some breathing techniques. It was Paramahansa Yogananda's lineage that I learned, and it was Ananda Yoga, Bliss Yoga, Raja Yoga. And so it, it just, I don't know, it came from the ether and it just became a part of me. And I started teaching breathing along with the Hatha yoga system that I had learned. And I found over the years, it just grew in importance, and it grew in, it just would confirm to me continually how important it was for people to breathe, but to breathe correctly. And so I noticed people were not breathing correctly. You know, most people don't. Most people are walking around, and I call it their walking around breath. And it's a very upper chest, very shallow breathing. And so they're not optimizing their breath. Therefore, they're not optimizing their health and their the clarity of their thinking and their focus, and all of the myriad of things that we need to function on a high level, especially in this particular world that we're living in right now with everything that's going on. So in any event, that became my specialty. And I did notice when I first started teaching, very few people in my area were teaching breathing. And so it just wasn't being taught. That's kind of changed now, and it's gone through a wave or two where, or then for a while, people were adding some components of breathing to their yoga classes, but they weren't really teaching breathing. So I would go take a yoga class, and I would notice other people in the class were doing, for example, ujjayi breathing or the ocean breathing, but they didn't teach us how to do it. And so, and then other classes, nothing at all, no breathing at all. And I kind of developed a bit of a cynical attitude about it. And I thought, well, a westernizing yoga is what happened there during a period of time as well. And so people were using yoga for a good stretch, for calming down. Yes, of course, because you're automatically going to calm down if you go to a yoga class and you do the exercises the way the teacher, or the asanas, the way the teacher leads you into the processes. But if you're not doing the breathing with it, then it's really just another exercise class. And I sort of grew fond of calling it the slow boat to China. You know, you'll get there, but it'll be the very slow boat to China. Add the breathing, and then you're on the fast track. Add the meditation, and then you're quickly there. So about a year ago, I decided, well, last July, I decided to write this book. And I wrote it out of service. I wrote it out of knowing there was a need, and in particular, a need for those who are beginners, just entering into yoga, or just entering into something is prodding them to become a little bit more aware, to wake up and kind of say, I'm sensing that there's more to what's happening than meets the eye. And so I wanted to actually, so it's like my piece of the puzzle. Like you're kind of like, you have all the pieces, and I hear all the pieces, and I understand all the pieces, and I know all the pieces, but my strength and my forte, I guess, my piece of the puzzle to share with the people is the breathing, because I know it so well. And so that's prompted me to write the book. I started writing it last July. I published it. It was published this July. And I just, I'm so happy that it was done. It was a monumental effort, and I can't even imagine you're writing 150 books, you know. But I have a few more in the pipeline, possibly. But so yeah, so it is. It's all about breathing. My book, but there are other things in the book that are supportive to the broader understanding of why breathing, what it's really all about, why we should do it, and the structures that kind of the structures of yoga that support this kind of work so that we can awaken. Now, a lot of people are running around saying, and the Great Awakening is happening. It is happening. There's no question about it. But and it's not like there's two awakenings, but in a way there is two awakenings. There is the spiritual awakening, and then there is the awakening to the fact that we have been dumbed down, ruled over, enslaved, and made a mockery of basically forever, and especially for the last 100 years. But aside from that, this breathing and this yoga and the things that I'm talking about are about the spiritual awakening. So the fast track, the way to get there is through the breathing and through the meditation.
Mimi, that was just incredible. Thank you for all of that. You synthesized it so beautifully, and I really love that's why I really enjoy every time we have the privilege of being able to talk with you. Is just the wholeness about you, and that deep wisdom that you possess. And the thing that Colleen and I have really attempted to focus upon with our work, our channel, is teaching the whole truth. It's so important that we unveil not bits and pieces, because if you're only giving a part of the truth, like you're talking about going to a yoga class, that would be considered part of the plan, part of the process, part of the truth. If you don't give the wholeness of it, and then it's not talking about the foods that you're eating, the breath that you're taking, the thoughts that you do or don't take, and then tying all of that back into our own physiology, tying that back into the ancients and the ancient cultures and the ancient scriptures, because all of these amazing books that people refer to as religious books, these are very, very much spiritual books. And the basis emphasis to so many of these writings, especially the Eastern ones, but I will clearly tell you as well, the New Testament in the Bible is entirely about this process of controlling one's breathing, of controlling one's emotions, of going within and conquering the beast of the left hemisphere of the brain, and accepting the gift of everything within that beautiful calming effect of the right hemisphere of the brain. So all of these scriptures are teaching the exact same things. And if we're not sharing this with everyone, we're selling short the miracle of yoga, and we're selling short the miracle of this gift of breathing. We were talking just very briefly before the show about the very nature of all of God's creations and gifts to us. And one of these things, of course, a great example is breathing. And once again, what do we notice about the things that God gives to us? And they are free. They're open 24/7. So, they're not closed on Sundays, and you don't have to wait till tomorrow morning. And you don't need a license. And they don't cost anything. They're always free. It's the beautiful thing about the nature of God's creation. And most times they're always incredibly simple. They're because they relate commonsensically, so that anyone who just is grounded, if you have connection to the Mother Earth, and you imbue that wisdom from the Mother, which is that common sense that we all do possess, then so many of these things are purely easy to to understand and process because they are purely commonsensical. So the example that you gave, it was beautiful, beautiful. I thank you for your candor, is that a yoga class that doesn't focus upon breathing, that's kind of like the slow boat to China. I've always equated it like this. If you're teaching meditation or you're teaching yoga and you're not emphasizing the breathing, then it's like teaching a skydiving class without the parachute. And you're going to get to that end place, but a lot sooner than you thought, with a different impact. So it's so important. And what we talk about in virtually all of our podcasts is this, that the building blocks to this reality are in two forms. Okay, these are the introductory level building blocks, and they lead to everything else. One is the food that you do or don't take into your temples, which are to be treated like these golden temples, which they are. And the second is your breathing. Your breathing and your food are the basis to your existence. Do them right, and ye shall receive the great gifts that are there. And one of the things, I don't want to put you on the spot with this, but one of the things that Colleen and I teach very passionately about, because the ancients talk about it all the time, is that when we are born into this experience, we are gifted 1,000 years. And what we choose to do with this in terms of extending it, regenerating ourselves, and potentially, as the Bible teaches, living forever. The book of Revelations is the great reveal, but it's the great reveal about you and human physiology and the secret to living forever. Or you can take those 1,000 years and squander it with poison and raw emotions and drop dead at 50 or 55. And the thing that's incredible, Mimi, about what's happening today, nobody bats an eye at this. And you look at a famous musician or a famous actor, and they have a multi-million-dollar home in Malibu overlooking the beautiful stretch of the Pacific Ocean, and they drop dead from some disease at the age of 62, and no one bats an eye, because like 62, well, that's pretty darn old. I'm 57 and I haven't even begun to grow up yet. I am the same kid that I discovered at 12 or 13 when I started reading Lord of the Rings. I haven't changed. I do not see myself as even close to getting older, or even close to thinking about some ending or transition. Not even close. So let me pass that back over to you and hear your thoughts on some of those things.
Well, certainly. And, as you were saying that, I do a part-time job. I work for a major bank, kind of the belly of the beast. And I'm on the phone a lot. And I get a lot of people that say, "Oh, well, you sound so young. You just wait. You just wait till you get old." They have no idea. I'm probably older than most of them, but it is the breathing. It is the yoga. It is the right way of eating. And so it all factors in and it comes through your voice. It comes through the energy that you project, even if it's over the phone. So that's one thing. But it is true. People do expect to come into this world to live fast and die hard, and live fast and play hard and die young. And people fully expect they're buying insurance so that they can pay for their nursing homes, because they fully expect to end up there. And I suppose if you're expecting that, then you will get what you expect. That is a component to the subconscious in any event. But so definitely. And the fact that you and Colleen are teaching the whole picture is so awesome. I try to get in as much as I can within the within the parameters that are given to me. We were talking about the frequencies, and the thoughts in our minds are electrical impulses, right? The thoughts or the emotions in our heart are the magnetic impulses. And so if we can drop into our hearts, and if we can begin to recognize those electrical impulses, those thoughts as just little flashes of and we create stories out of them, and we follow them, and we develop a whole life around them. And so part of the meditation and part of the breathing is to drop down beneath those electrical impulses and drop more into the heart and drop away from all of that noise. And just to even become aware that it's even there is like the first step. If you even become, once you have once tasted some silence in your mind, just from a very simple breathing or from a very simple meditation, and you're like, wow, that was silent. That was silence. That was quiet for a little bit. If you can just become aware of that, and then go after that, and discover the ways from the teachers like you and other teachers, discover the ways to begin to engender that so that it becomes more of a natural occurrence in your everyday life, so that as you go about your day, then you're no longer in those left brain Einstein sided electrical impulses, and you're more magnetic. And I don't know if I said that right. I mean, the way I really wanted to say it, but that is some thought that occurred to me as you were talking earlier. And I said that I thought I must say that, because really most people do spend their life in the electrical impulses in their brain, and their whole life is one big story of those electrical impulses. They don't even know who they are. And even people that are in yoga classes, and even people that go to yoga classes 3 and 4 times a week, unless, if and until they are meditating and they are breathing and they are eating right, it's not going to happen. At least not quickly.
Wow. Again, thank you so much for that, Mimi. And everything that you're saying, of course, is just dovetails right into everything that Colleen and I teach and share as well. And I'm so thankful that you brought up this duality between electricity and magnetism. And it really goes to the heart of what we were saying earlier about being born and gifted these 1,000 years, and we're gifted free will to go along with those 1,000 years, and it's up to us to determine whether we get more, whether we get exactly that, whether we get less. The more you research that, what you learn from all of these ancient scriptures is that everlasting life is attainable in this reality here, because this is the duality. This is where these teachings are being applied to. We've fallen from the singularity of a purely metaphysical form in heaven with thy Father, and we're now in the duality of the Father and the Mother. So you have the Tiffany blue sky, and you have the blood red earth of the Mother, and they each play such an important role. This is all about the yin and the yang in this reality, but it's all about the balancing of these two worlds, and it is not about the ignorance or the separation of these two worlds, and that of course has become our reality, where everybody, virtually everyone, has, like you said, is here to live fast and die young, and they do it because it's what they see. And when you tell them that there's an alternative to this, it's very difficult for most people to grasp, because they look around them and they see what is, and therefore it must always have been this way. But I'm very fortunate because I had wonderful, like I'm sure many people have, wonderful parents. And my mom, who's such an incredible lady, her mom, which I refer to as my Nana, was the most incredible woman. And she was still driving when she was 103. And she finally passed away at 107. And when Nana passed, and Mom told me because she knew how very close we were. I didn't react with sadness or frustration or anger or anything like that. I was in shock. I was in shock because I had just seen her, and she was just such a going concern all the time that the first thing I said to myself, doesn't make sense, because why would Nana stop? Because she just goes here, there, and everywhere. She has such purpose and therefore value, and that is, we just don't see that anymore. People think that living to 100 is some kind of miraculous thing, and like we were saying earlier, it takes some of the most famous people in the world with all of these advantages with modern medicine, and they're dropping like flies around their late 50s and early 60s. And you just begin to ask yourself, how is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? And it all comes down to this separation of two worlds, the separation between the divinity of the mother and the divinity of the father. And I will humbly suggest to most that most people who belong to organized religions and think that connecting to the Father is going to church every Sunday and just, repeating some psalms or chants within the congregation, that's going to get you there. It isn't. You have to take these things so seriously. And this is where, like Josh X, I think you were talking about that pre-show as well, the conversation that I was just having with Josh, and we were just talking about, like the origin of the word job means persecution. But that's how our lives are structured, out of economic restriction and lack. Therefore, very quickly, early, we have to go and get a job, and that's an electrical impulse, because it's a survival mechanism, because you got to have money, because things cost money. Everywhere we look, everything just grows for free. But I don't know, I obviously I didn't get the memo, but somehow, some way, everything that just grows in abundance for free costs money. And so we have to rush to get a job. And then, of course, if you want more money, you have to rush into more education to get a better job and more money. And then, like you were saying so brilliantly, that by the time you're 45, that's who you are. And all your life has been is a series of these left brain electrical impulses. That's the thing about our reality that people are not considering. There is another way. What if I told you? What if I told you? What if I told you there was another way, and it was a better way? So what is this other way? Well, like Nikola Tesla described, electricity is a downward causation. It's constantly raining down upon us. And the thing about electricity that is so important to note if you do research is that electricity is ruled by these electrical waves. And these electrical waves are called transverse waves. And transverse waves are temporal waves, temporary. And everyone equates them to an ocean wave, which is that beautiful oscillating wave, which just is in, perpetual oscillation within the oceans. And they could last and go forever and ever in this potential form of energy, potential energy. But when the base of this oscillation contacts something, it violently thrusts itself up in this live fast and die hard reality. So for 50, 60, 70 years, you live fast and you die hard, and then you crash your essence upon the shores of this world, and then you wash back into nothingness as you fall back upon this glorious death of living hard and dying living fast and dying hard, then you wash back. And of course, that's the beauty of this analogy, is that that wave is now dead until such time that it is regenerated with life once more, which would be some kind of force enacting itself upon it. And that, of course, would be the breath of God, which would be the wind. And then the wind begins this process, and this free form sample of water then begins to receive the breath of God. Life returns, and then the oscillation begins again. And see, this is such an incredible example, because that is the left brain, that is the samsara, that is the great wheel, and we go around and around and around and around and around, where you're born, you live, you get sick, and you die, and you're born and you live and you get sick and you die, and around it goes. But there's another way, and I want everyone to relate what Mimi has been sharing with us to this incredible picture that is so important yet misunderstood amongst most Christians, and in particular the Roman Catholics. There's that incredible picture, Jesus of the heart, and Jesus is, and he has a crown around his head, and Jesus with his left hand, which is the left-hand path, which is redshift, which is the mother, which is the physical, which is the earth. And what is he doing with his left hand? He's pointing directly to his heart, which is located in the exact center of Jesus. And then with his right hand, he is reaching or pointing up toward heaven, the right-hand path of the spiritual mind, the spiritual reality, which is connecting to thy Father, up and to the right, and from down and to the left. Jesus is pointing, and this tells you everything. It's telling you everything. And in that center spot within us is that heart. And that heart is magnetism. You are at your core, at your basis, you are a magnetic being. You are the Kundalini who needs to rise. But here's the trick. God in his genius, I mean, just absolute, never disappointing, absolute genius of this creation, placed magnetism into the hands of the mother. And as a beautiful, loving, caring, compassionate, feminine, negatively charged, magnetic being, for the mother to shine, she needs peace of mind. She needs quiet. She needs silence. She needs to be able to trust. She needs to be able to see clearly. And all of these things that I'm saying are all related to the food you eat and the breaths that you take. It is really that simple. If you wish to live the alternative to what you see out there in a Hollywood movie, which once again is, you go, and then you die. And that's how it is. If you want this beautiful, intertwined, romantic, connective, masculine and feminine, father and mother in love eternally, sensual experience of bliss that the Yogananda taught, this purple bliss of the purple rain of the crown chakra, the magenta colored 144 petal lotus flower in the center of the crown, then she must rise. And for her to rise, you cannot live in fear. And why do we live in fear? Left brain. Because what exists in the left brain? That's that dragon. It's a beast. It is a hydra. And it is your ego. And you must slay the dragon. You must slay the dragon for the mother to have the courage and the trusting to be able to begin to fly. And then she uncoils those 3.5 times. And there's a powerful reason, 3.5 times. But then she uncoils, and that is magnetism. And what do we know about magnetism, folks? Let me say this one more time, and I'll make it quick. Magnetism are scalar waves. These are also known as Tesla waves, because Nikola Tesla devoted so much of his life to the study of magnetism, because Tesla realized that electricity was a one-trick pony. Magnetism was the whole picture.
Magnetism was the real deal, because scalar waves are eternal. Scalar wave, what is a scalar wave and how is it shaped? It is the perfect 8. It is the eternal 8. And this is what you see, that the path of the sun takes in 365 days per year. It makes this perfect 8. And the path of the moon, every 28 days, 14 days you see her, she makes the sine wave. And in those 14 days we don't see her, she returns the opposite, and she completes the double sine wave, which is the eternal 8. And that's a torus field. That's a torus field. And that's the Bible, because the Bible, bi is 2 and bull is bull. And Taurus is the bull. And there are 2 bulls, and that is the 2 Ouroboroses of the eternal 8. And the lower is that beautiful yin to our yang. That is the sacred sensual mother, Mary, the pureness who needs to rise. And then this is the father. And the mother and the father must become one. And then it's only us who can unite them. And then you see that's the Holy Trinity, because we, the child, unite the mother with the father by the breath we take and the food that we eat and the thoughts that we do or we don't take. Back over to Mimi. I love this stuff.
That's beautiful, Charlie. That is so beautiful. And you can't say it enough. You know, you say it in many different ways, in many different times that I've heard you, but you cannot say it enough, because it's just it needs to imprint people. And it's funny because when you talk about the slaying the dragon, there's a saying in India that you have to face the tiger head on and be willing to be eaten. And when you finally come to that point where you go, you're ready, and you just face the tiger. Go ahead, eat me. You'd rather be eaten than carry on that left path. That's it. There's no, you finally reach that point. And once you cross that threshold, then the real joy of the path can begin. And it's still work. There's still inner work that we need to continue to do. And a couple other things too. And one thing just very quickly is understanding. And if I would change anything in my book, I would change the few times that I use the word understand, I would change it to understand. So for sure that. And there's one of the times that I was in India, we did a specific process, and that process was to bypass and go to the right side of the brain to hold our energy. And that was the first time that concept had ever been presented to me about the right. And so when I heard you say it some time ago, I was like, that's it. That's right. He's right. I mean, I heard that in India, and I did that process once or twice. I never really thought about doing it again. But since I've been listening to you, there is another type of meditation that I have been doing. It's what I kind of call a commercial meditation, but it's a humming, where you hum and you pull the energy up. And so what I've been doing is I've been humming, but I've been pulling the energy up, and I've been bypassing and pushing it up into the right side. And it's so awesome. I mean, the effects are just profound. And it's like even the hum develops more of the sound of a bell. It has a richer, fuller, I mean, it's just the whole experience. And all I did was change that one little component. And it's so, yes, there's many, many pieces, there's many components, but the figure 8, there's also a figure 8 meditation with the breath that you can do, and you can track it with your mind, and that is also so invigorating. I mean, it's really, we've got to convince everyone to at least get past the threshold. Once you get past that first threshold, then you can really dig your teeth in, and then you're excited, and then you look forward to getting up each day and just just allowing everything to be as it is, and to being with that moment, and to breathing, and to noticing, and to becoming aware. And that's another thing, the awareness that meditation and breathing and other practices, and of course eating, would have to go into that. But the awareness is the first step and the last step. You become aware, you see who you are on the inside. If you're living a lie, if you're living that story, that persona, and we have many personas, many personalities, if you're living those, okay, it's one thing if you're doing something in the as an outer facade. But as long as your inner authenticity, as long as you see what you really are saying and thinking and doing and feeling on the inside, it's that awareness that I'm talking about. And it's that authenticity, because ultimately, if you continue to see, which once you see, you can't not see. You've talked about that, and that is so true. But once you're there and you see, and you're seeing all the time, and you're seeing, boy, I'm really acting like a fool, and I'm saying this, and I don't really mean it, because this is how I really am thinking, and this is how I'm really feeling. Eventually, things kind of start to dissolve enough where how you really are begins to be how you're really being. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect
So,
sense.
in any event, awareness is the first step, it's the last step, and all of the other things along with it. That's it.
Oh, just so beautiful. Let me quickly insert this, and then we'll go right back over to you, Mimi, because that's so fantastic. But the Yogananda always spoke about the discipline, the importance of a disciplined mind, because a mind that wanders is an unwise mind, and the whole left brain is this perpetual wandering, and it is this wandering through the desert where everything looks the same and you have no idea to turn left or turn right, or if you're going in the right direction, if you've been turned around. That's the whole metaphor of the desert. And this is why every one of these ancient scriptures, all of our key characters that are in these stories, all have to face this temptation of the desert. And for Jesus, it was 40 days and 40 nights. For someone like Moses, it was 40 years. 40 years wandering in the desert. Now these, to my mind, these are allegorical tales, allegorical stories, but they relate so beautifully, perfectly within our world, because, and then you said something absolutely amazing that I'm going to use to tie this in, because when you are doing things right, there's always a right way and a wrong way with everything that we do. Everything that we do, there's a right way and there's a wrong way that we do things. And society doesn't teach you that. And we don't spend any time practicing that. Like Josh talked about in our last podcast, what they do is rush you along with some kind of form of this commercial language so you can get a job. And then that's it. Because once you're in that world of perpetual work, and then you become a mortgage slave, and a mort is death, and a car payment slave, and a credit card, you are a slave for the rest of your life. And then, as Mimi said, then all you are is that persona. All you are is that mask that you pull over your face, because you have to just play roles for everyone. Everyone around you is demanding that you play specific roles, never once giving yourself a chance to express who you are, which that's how God made us. Each and every single one of us, unique, different, and yet everything about society teaches the same, look the same, dress the same, eat the same, speak the same, do the same thing, same. And everything that God does is unique, one off forever. There'll never, ever, ever be another one of you or I. And that needs to be celebrated. I mean, that's just common sense, and it needs to be celebrated. So you talked about this ringing of the bell. This is so important. The Yogananda talks about this all the time. The rewards of the disciplined mind. How do you discipline yourself and your mind? Again, the foods that you eat. He didn't talk so much about that, but the breaths that you take, and the thoughts that you do or don't take, is this disciplined mind that does not wander. Okay, and what are the rewards of doing this focused breathing? So, or this focused type of breathing or yoga, which is the humming and this concentration like a monadic circle, but in this case, it's the concentration of the raising of the frequency that is created by the humming. And when you envision it, and all that you are in those moments is the envisioning of what that frequency is doing, that's what that frequency is doing. That's how it all works. Whatever you focus on and believe in 100% is exactly what is happening. That's the brilliance of what you said earlier in the show about this, the left brain lie and these electrical impulses, and that they just shock you. And this whole world is just shocking. And you're constantly blowing a fuse in your circuit of the electrical left brain, and you're constantly being shocked by how violent and how greedy and how lustful this world is, and it's shocking and shocking. And all of these electrical impulses are shocks. You believe them, and then after a while, you start to go, "Wow, that's me. I'm that person. I'm that person that screwed up and made that mistake. And then I'm that person that lied about screwing up and making that mistake so that I wouldn't lose my job. So now I'm someone who makes mistakes, and I'm a liar. And then I was so depressed that I had an affair on this person that I love more than anything, but I just made a mistake. So now I'm an adulterer." And then you begin to define yourselves as if any of these things are real, as if any of them are bound in any form of reality. You are what you absolutely know. And until you get to a point of doing actual research and learning the truth about anything, your knowingness is in your beliefs. So whatever you believe becomes your reality. So as Mimi brilliantly said, that when you focus, something as simple as just this humming meditation, this humming form of yoga, where you're making this vibrational resonance, and then all you're doing is just concentrating on it, and you're focusing on it, rising up and to the right. I guarantee you that's exactly what's happening, because that's exactly how we function. There's no two ways around this. You go to quantum physics, they'll tell you the exact same thing. It's exactly how this reality unfolds. Whatever you know to be true collapses the wave function, and it makes this potential reality into your learned experience. So that takes us all the way back to the start of the show, where we said that if you're tuned in to 610 a.m. talk radio, and yet you're trying to connect to God who's on 105.3 FM, that's a whole nother frequency at the other range of the spectrum. You're not going to get there. If God's on channel 9 and you're watching channel 2, it doesn't matter how much you pray, you're not going to get there. And just to finish off, as Mimi said, to tie this all together, she said that when you focus and you do these things, it sounds like the ringing of a bell. And you see, that's the golden bell. And the golden bell is this right here, and that is your pineal gland. And your pineal gland can be one of two things, and it absolutely is. This is literally the truth. Your pineal gland is either a vast desert wasteland that is probably calcified, or it is a diamond. And the diamond is where we build our home. This is what the passages of the New Testament are talking about. Jesus says that when the disciples ask him, Jesus, where then do we build our home? Where is it safe to build our home? You build your home upon the most solid of rock. And that solid rock is a pineal gland that is activated because it turns literally into a diamond shape. It literally is. What do we know about in our experience? What do we know about the diamond? It is the strongest substance known to man. And that's where you build your house, so that no tempest will ever tear down your world. Your world is always protected. No matter where you go, your home follows you because it's your pineal gland. And again, it's either a vast desert wasteland, 40 days and 40 nights and 40 years where everything looks the same and you're lost in the desert, left brain, or it's a diamond and you're home. You're always home when you're with your father and the mother. Pituitary gland, milk, Mary, mother, magnetism, and then the pineal gland, honey, preserved. It's a preservative. The preserved honey of the positively charged electrical Joseph, masculine, father, father, mother, child, father, mother, child. This is what this is all about. So let's take all of that right back to Mimi again.
Beautiful, beautiful, Charlie. And you know, the pineal gland, like you said, a lot of people have that calcification. Well, and that's another thing that was pushed upon us with the fluoridation of the water. Fluoride most definitely calcifies. And the dentists, when you go to have your teeth cleaned, and they say, well, now we want to spray fluoride in your mouth, and you leave it in there for 4 hours. And people have done it. I've had to talk my friends out of doing it. It's a neurotoxin, and it's going to calcify your pineal gland. And my dentist all really tried hard to force me to do it, telling me that, well, it's free. Your insurance will cover it. You should just go ahead and do it. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. But so the pineal gland, so important, that beautiful, and for me, it's blue, that beautiful blue diamond, and so important. And so just circling back then to one other thing that you said, and that was the person that was just mired down and in the quick mud, and just there's no way out, there's nothing. In one sense, there has to be a starting point for those people too. And so potentially that is the seva, or the service, that I initially considered when I started to write this book, so that those people would have some starting place, some place to begin, something that was easy enough, something that was, and hopefully I put in enough antidotes or enough other types of information that it's interesting enough that it's a simple place to begin. They have to begin somewhere, but begin they must. So
yeah, again, so beautiful, and it's so true. So why don't we now transition the show into a much more tangible aspect to it, because there are so many people that have expressed such excitement about the show today, and are communicating that they feel very lost when it comes to breathing, which is just incredible to me, because when we exercise, when we are righteous, when we live out of the right hemisphere of the brain and in service, as Mimi exemplifies, she really does, my friends, Mimi really does exemplify this, that in service to others you break a sweat. And in that breaking of the sweat, that very natural process is to breathe deeply in through your nose and exhale deeply out through your mouth. And just in that simple process of breaking a sweat in service to others, you're being gifted this incredible truth. But you see, if you're not conscious, if you're filled with matter instead of light, you see, there's this choice again. And you can look at this, that one's better than the other, but really at the end of the day, it isn't about that. It's just you get a different reality. So it's which reality do you prefer? It's not about better or worse. The father is not better than the mother. They're just different. And in their difference, they complete one another so that we have this infinite realm to express our gift of free will. But when you are with this Mother Earth, connected to her through your oncles. This is what the Egyptians were referencing with the shape, the location, and the mythology in and around the ankh. The ankh is your ankles, and they are what anchor you to the physical realm, to the ground. And the whole point, just, if you're not there yet, it's okay, but just listen to this and then let it resonate inside of you. What does the sun do? And it gives us life out there in the out there world. Okay, we'll acknowledge that the sun gives life in our outer world. And what does the sun do? In the morning, to the right, in the east, it rises. It's eternally rising every single morning. And if you're awake, that's the clue. That's the starting point. That's the impetus that we need to get started with this process. You got to start somewhere, Mimi said, and it's these little things that when you fill with light instead of matter, you begin to see that things don't matter, and then you develop some awareness. So Mimi talked this importance of consciousness, which is awareness, versus then the mask wearing and being asleep and not seeing anything. I express it like this. Matter is the physical, and when you're filled with matter, when your cells are filled with matter, then you are a solid being, rock solid being, and you are locked to this earth, and you are therefore a victim of what's going on with this earth. But you can rise above it all. Do you see where that expression comes from? You see how that expression kind of explains everything? It's an old saying. It's been around for tens of thousands of years. That old expression, you can rise above it all. Just rise above it all. Rising above it all is, you can't rise if you're filled with matter. So your cells, which your cells are made up of molecules, and your molecules are atoms. And atoms is atom or atum or even aten. And they're all referencing the same thing, which is, Adam and Eve, masculine and feminine, physical and the metaphysical. It's your choice. Your life is your choice. And your atoms are actually filled with light, the light of God. And that is photonic light. Photons is the basis to our reality. So that's light. And when you understand these words holistically, then here's what you understand about the word light. It's opposed to darkness, yes, but light is also opposed to heavy. And so when you're light, when you fill with light, then what happens? You begin to rise like the morning sun. And every morning you shall rise and meet the Father. See, once again, these beautiful metaphors, these beautiful allegories that explain our human physiology. They're so beautiful, and they're rooted in this simple truth. When we do the breathing, which we're going to start talking about in earnest here, and how this works, and when you are eating the right food, when you're doing the right breathing, and when you're not taking these acidic, toxic, horrific left-brain thoughts, then you're doing things the right way. And that is filling yourself with light. And when you're light, you will rise. And when you rise, that's magnetism in that eternal scalar wave, that beautiful 8, versus the downward causation that Tesla described electricity. It just does one thing. It's a one-trick pony, and down it goes. And it will die when it connects with a substance. So it's your choice. So Mimi, then what does that look like in a very, very simple, very practical sense about that starting point, breathing? What does that look like to take a right breath versus then that shallow wrong breath?
Well, that would be a proper diaphragmatic breath. So all breaths are diaphragmatic, because that just means the diaphragm is always going to be in play, because that's the muscle that facilitates the breathing. So the simple way to explain it is, if you were to take a palm and place a palm on your belly and a palm on your chest, and without trying to control your breath in any way, you just tune in to how you're breathing. And you will notice when you inhale, that there is an extension of the belly on the inhale before there's a rise on the chest. And as you exhale, there's a flattening of the chest and then a flattening out of the belly. The navel actually draws towards the spine, and you can actually feel it. If you don't try to manipulate it in any way, you just allow it to be and just watch it, just observe it. And know that that diaphragm is that little organ that sits there. And when you inhale, the diaphragm actually exerts a downward pressure. And so it presses down, and it actually presses on those abdominal organs, causing the belly to distend or to become that Buddha belly, or to become that bellows breath, sometimes they call it.
Yeah.
And then when you exhale, the diaphragm presses back up, the belly flattens out, the navel draws towards the spine, and then the diaphragm presses the breath all the way back out. So that's a complete breath. So if you're doing anything opposite to that or anything half of that, it's not optimal. And so therefore, you're cheating yourself. And it's very, very key if you could just learn that one basic thing and then tune in to have your awareness, pay attention to how you're breathing throughout the day. And if you could just make that your day for the next month. Every day is, okay, this is where I'm going to start. I'm just going to focus on how I'm really breathing. Am I completing a breath? Sometimes people will cut off and exhale and put a fresh inhale on top of stale breath that's still in there because they didn't expel all of that old breath. And so they never really get proper oxygenation. And so they never really have a lot of clarity because they never really have a complete full breath. And if you start off the day and you do 2 or 3 of those and you go, okay, I'm going to stick with that. And every time you wander from that, like you said, if the mind wanders, you bring it back. Just like in meditation, the mind wanders, you bring it back. And breath, of course, is your best access point in, right? So if you can give your mind something to pay attention to, which would be the breath, which is going to anchor you into this bodily system and remove you from external attractions and put you back inside, then you have a starting place. Then you have a place where you can actually do your work. I see people come sometimes into my class and they're like so external and their eyes are darting around and everything is outside, outside, outside. And after a certain point, I can bring them down to a certain place where I say, okay, just half mast your eyes and try not to even be concerned visually what is around you. Allow your awareness to perceive what is around you. But quit darting your eyes around and quit looking around and seeing what's going on, because it doesn't matter. It's you on your mat, and that's it. So the starting point would be the diaphragmatic breath, and that's the basic thing to do. Tune in. First of all, just tune in and notice. Notice without trying to do any manipulation. And once you've gotten that, then there's ways to progress from there. But that is key. You have to get that first.
Wow. And thank you so much for sharing that. That is just so beautiful and so amazing. And folks, again, from my infinite perspective of the scriptures, you just have to see the symbology that's built into this incredible natural process. So the palms, which are peace, which is a metaphor for peace of mind. So you use the palm leaves out there to help show you how to attain peace in here. And the key about this ancient practice of placing the palm leaves here and here is that it shows you something that you would not consciously be aware of any other way. And that is the first alpha. Okay, we're going to tie this in just a sec here. So important. The first movement, alpha, is the belly. Okay, and then it is the chest. And with the exhalation of this rarefied air, then it is first the chest, and the last omega is the belly. Alpha and omega is the belly, and the belly is the B, and that is the breast, that is the bosom, that is the belly, that is the mother. And this is why so famously Jesus is showing you the way. Showing you the way, because the only way to the Father is through the mother. The mother has everything we need, but we live in a left brain that abuses her, takes advantage of her, because the left brain has no care, has no compassion. It is Cain versus Abel. It is the Canaanites of this reality instead of those who are able. And what is to be able? I can do that. I can do anything. I am capable of anything. Capacity, capability is to be able. And the able is the right hemisphere of the brain. And those that can't are Cain. And I always love bringing this in. When it came to me, it just blew me away, but it is so true. What are we learning about these demons that have been and are... And this is, by the way, this is Altamira, one of our 18 cats. Altamira. Alta in Latin is high, and mira is like sight or view. So it's the high view. And she's amazing because of all of our cats, she goes the highest. We had no idea in the beginning, but that's how it worked out. So in this reality, the only way to the Father is through the mother. So this is why. This is the sacred truth about this image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ, and he's pointing the way. And the way to the Father is through the mother, and the mother must rise. And that is magnetism, and that is the mother, that is Mary, that is movement, that is motion. Go back to Sanskrit, and what is the root of the word magnetism? All of these great words, Donald Trump, make America great again, MAGA, mag. What is the root in Sanskrit to mag is motion. It's constant motion, and that's the mother. And then when you look at all these ancient scriptures about the Father, what is always this Father in the Tiffany blue sky, and you have to be an eagle with the wind beneath your wings to rise to the Father. The Father in every single ancient scripture was always described as dielectricity, which is the balance, which is the stillness and the silence. And so if the Father is still and silent, and the mother is magnetism, which is constant moving and motion, we know that she makes the scalar wave 8, then this movement of the loving mother around the Father is this bliss, is this sensuality of the feminine energy, of the Kundalini rising. And you see, when you have motion interacting with still and stationary, you get friction. Just try that. Just do this. Try that for yourself. And you look at any encyclopedia or any technical manual, and when you look up about electricity, they'll all tell you the same thing. Electricity is friction. We are the child. We are electricity, and we are the friction of the romantic liaison, the romantic passion between the Father and the mother. Now, let's tie this all back together again. So when we are created, we are electrical beings, because we are electricity. We are the friction created by the Father and the mother. Okay, what does electricity do? We fall. So you see, this falling out of heaven makes perfect sense, because that's what the child is. The child is an electrical being, and that is a downward causation, which is symbolic of us falling from the grace of the Garden of Eden down to hell upon earth. Okay, so you see, we're electricity. This ties in perfectly with this biblical story of tasting from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which, by the way, is duality, right? And knowledge of good and evil, again, male, yin and yang, male and female, magnetism, electricity. It's just, wow, it's just perfect. So we fall to hell upon earth because we're electricity. So we can't rise because we're electricity. As electrical beings, we just stay rooted in the uncles in Egypt. Egypt is an allegory. This is where this all came from. Egypt is an allegory for the left brain. That's why Egypt is located in a desert. the desert again, right? The pineal gland not being used is hell upon earth, the desert of Egypt. What did Jesus say in the Bible? What is thy name, O Lord? And he said, I have been to Egypt, and therefore my name is Aman, for I have returned. And that is symbolic. He's saying, I am a man because I went on the journey to hell and back again. I went to Egypt and I came back again. That's the left brain. That's the left brain. I was tempted by Cain in the desert, but I remained able. And that's what we have to do. What are we noticing? What are we learning about these demons? And I segued for a second. I'll come back to it. But in the Bible, Cain slew Abel. In the Bible, Cain slew Abel. Your left brain will absolutely devour your right brain if you have, as the Yogananda described, as that wandering mind. If you give the dime brain, the 10% left brain, an inch, it'll take a mile. This is the symbology of an inch to a mile, is the symbology of the 10% to the 90% left brain, right brain, an inch a mile. If you give your left brain a single moment to lunge forward and to spring into motion or action, it will. If you give it an inch, it'll take a mile. Cain slew Abel. Cain, Abel. Cain, Abel. Cainable. Cainable. Cannibal. 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 Cain ate Abel. Cannibal. And what have we learned about these demons that we're taking down? That they exist by drinking the blood of our children. These are the Canaanites, and they are the left brain. And the Canaanites of the left brain killed Abel, and they are cannibals, which are cannibals. That's where the word, I guarantee you, that's where the word came from. And what is the problem? I guarantee this as well. What's the problem with these demons who exist on the ship at sea, which is Venice? What is wrong with these demons that would do these things? It's rooted in the breaths that they do or don't take. It's rooted in the thoughts that they do or they don't take. That's the problem with Cain, is that he never took the time to be able. And the time is to observe. You said it earlier. It is the truth of truths. You must become the observer. You must become, without judgment, left brain judgment, without judgment, you must become the observer. And what does the observer notice? You watch the palm leaves, which are peace. And what do the palm leaves do? They show you Alpha and Omega. And the Alpha and the Omega are through the mother, which is the belly, the bosom, the breast. And when we learn this, that it starts with the inhale and then finishes with the exhale, it's like, wow. When I discovered this, I ran to Colleen at 1,000 miles an hour, and I just said, oh my God, I just see it. Wow. And that's it. And so everything that Mimi is writing about in her book, and everything that she's teaching us, we're going to continue on with this in just a sec, but the Buddha breath, why it's so important is because it shows you the way. It is connecting to the Father through the mother. Do you see the beautiful, just the sacred beauty in this? That Buddha is the child. He is the child of this higher Father and this lower mother that create this perfect balance, this perfect harmony, this perfect world, this perfect earth. And that's all we have to do, is be mindful of two worlds. And then we seek to balance these two worlds. And it all starts with that breathing. And I thank you so much, Mimi, for bringing that example of the palm leaves and the Buddha breath of the diaphragmatic breathing, because the diaphragm teaches you everything you need to know. But again, if you're filled with matter, you don't see. You have no awareness, and you're not present in the moment, and you don't see what it teaches. So back over to you.
Beautiful. Again, amazing. And the diaphragm, one more thing about the diaphragm. I decided some years ago, and it came to me like things come to you, that the diaphragm is not just a muscle, it's an intelligent organ. I mean, okay, you know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. And another thing that came to me as you were speaking, bringing attention to the breath causes the breath to become pranic. Okay, prana, which resides in the ether, rides into the body on the breath, yet it's like oxygen. We all have oxygen in our system, but if and until we're paying attention, we don't see anything. Once you bring attention to your breath, that breath then becomes alive. It becomes pranic. It is able then to do its thing that it is meant to do, this prana. Right? Prana is going to come in and it's going to go out, and it's going to come in and it's going to go out. But once you recognize it and you bring your attention to it, it is enlivened. Right? So that is another thing. That is another thing. And another thing that came to me as you were talking about the friction with the other. So if you get the diaphragmatic breath down, you understand that, and you begin to bring your attention to the breath, and you understand that, the importance of that. So you get those two things down. Then the second thing, or the third thing that you can do is the ocean breathing. And the ocean breathing has to do with the friction. So as you constrict the glottis, you drag the breath across the constricted glottis. It creates friction, and you're breathing in through the nose, creates friction. Friction produces heat. Heat warms the internal systems of the body. It softens the tissues. It causes the organs to release toxins. It softens and releases tension from the muscles. It's like a far infrared sauna on the inside of your body. So it heats you from the inside out. So the third thing that you learn in this book, and it's so important, is that ocean breathing, that ujjayi breathing, to constrict the glottis, drag the breath, create the friction, heat yourself from the inside out, so you never really get hot. You see a lot of people working out in the gym, and you see people even coming into yoga class and they're sweating. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because sweating is obviously a very good thing to do. You're releasing toxins. But after a certain point, if you're breathing correctly and you're being heated from the inside, you're not going to be just withering and dying and sweating and dripping, and you're going to be warm and you're going to be functioning, and it's going to be a functioning, like in the zone type of activity. So that's the third thing to bring into your breathing. Once you get the diaphragmatic, and once you understand about bringing attention back, then that would be the third thing to do.
Again, so beautiful, and this is when I was reading the passage from your book, and it tweaked me about this ocean breathing, and the thing that they talk about this in the Eastern traditions is this pliability, the gift that you give yourself by this warming, right? This warming is this pliability. What's ply? What is that word? It's pliable. So you see, once again, when you breathe correctly, you're not Cain, you're Abel, and you become pliable, and you're able to apply yourself. Ply is to do, but A is alpha, which is the Father. So that is the doing of the goodly, godly, and you are able. So applicable, applicable, pliable. These are all such important words, and they all relate back to the breath that you take. Because when you do it properly, and again, like Mimi teaches, this concentration. I just cannot stress this enough. Everything that you do in your life, no matter what it is that you do, Just do it and be it in that moment to the exclusion of everything else. If you can learn to do this, I promise you, like I have been able to do for myself, is create this gift where there is no longer any of this inner dialogue, this inner monologue, this ridiculous reality where these divergent thoughts or troubled thoughts just pop into your head, a memory that has no reason for being here in the now, but suddenly a memory from 30 or 40 years ago just suddenly pops into your head, and it disturbs us. It disturbs the silence, and then we break down this focus. We lose the focus we'd worked so hard to attain, and we become scattered, divided, leaderless. Do you see how all this works again? The left brain scattered, divided, leaderless. Right brain, to be able to be pliable, is to be united, is to come together, and is to lead the way, to become the leader. And the leader is the one who observes. So this is the symbology of all of these Tibetan monks. And they're constantly always saying, they listen and my life is horrible and this horrible thing happened. And they listen patiently and they listen, and then they say, we'll see. And then, oh my goodness, my goodness, oh Father, like everything changed, and now this amazing thing happened. My life is so perfect. My life is so amazing. My life is wonderful. Thank you for that wisdom of teaching me to wait. And so my life is just, we'll see. and that's because this never goes away. It never goes away. When you slay the dragon, it's only for the moment, and then the next moment the challenge is back there again. So one of the things that I wanted Mimi to now talk about is the importance of again, having a book like this, a proper book that is holistic in nature. And then this is the gift of practicing yoga when it's done correctly, is that it's teaching you habits, good habits. Good is God, godly habits. We have been taught bad habits, and bad in Latin is malfeasance, and this is our feces, and this is the crap life where we live down out of that root Muladhara chakra. As we said, there's a right way and a wrong way. The right way is up here, and the wrong way is down there. And how do you know that down there is the wrong way? Just use your breath, use your senses, and it tells you pretty powerfully, clearly, that's the wrong way to go. Smell the roses. The roses is the fruit of your labors, and that is that beautiful sweet smell of creating that lotus flower, the 144 petal lotus flower. Breathe in that, but you can only do that if you rise. So let's talk about that for a second, Mimi, the importance of yoga done correctly, which is the sacred importance of your book, because then you're teaching yourself good habits, godly habits, instead of those bad habits.
And once you start and you begin to do it on a regular, consistent basis, then you do shift, you do change. Many things will begin to change that you didn't even have to try to do, but you have to make the first effort. And I believe the Buddhists call it some effort, skillful effort. You make that first move, and then you step into that space, and then you begin to create from there. And it does really all start with the breath, and it does all start with attention, paying attention, being conscious, being aware. And when you breathe, and here's another thing that you can do as you go through your day, know that every inhale that you take is an acceptance, is an opening to life. And every exhale that you make is a settling in and a type of a surrender. So it becomes a practice just by paying attention to your breath, and you can be doing a number of things. But if you know that you're opening to life, and then you're allowing everything to be as it is, and you're surrendering to the process, because it is a process. Life is a process. Breathing is a process. Everything that we're doing is a process, like the bardo. And we won't go into the bardo right now, but maybe some other time. But that we're in the bardo right now of life, and so important to establish a good foundation. The foundation, make it on a rock, make it solid, and build from there. And just take it one step at a time. And once you start with that good foundation, and I'm talking breathing foundation, then you're no longer on the slow boat. Then you're moving up a notch. Then you're able to begin to progress and take on some of these higher, loftier teachings that Colleen and Charlie are telling us about so wonderfully. Then you're able to take those in too. But you have to start with a good, a solid foundation, moving on from there, onwards and upwards, and to the right. I had to say it.
You're gonna love this. Like I just love this conversation. I always love speaking with you. It's wow. So paying attention. You're gonna love this. So paying is paying, because somebody has to pay. Somebody has to pay. And in the Bible, this is one of the things that drives me, just angers me the most, about how organized religion has lied about the sacred brilliance. They just limit this incredible scripture, the two bulls, Bible, the two bulls, the Old and the New Testament are the two bulls. They've just told you that this is some kind of history book, and then it's just these sort of weird stories and fantastic. They're just performing the most disservice that has ever existed, because the people who wrote the Bible were geniuses, and this book is genius through and through, and it's genius on so many levels that you just can't even believe. But one of the things that they did the most, that bothers me the most about what they teach modern day Christians, is this tithing. And of course, in the Bible, the description never once is said that tithing has anything to do with money. Never once does it say that this tithing needs to be paid to a representative of the church. It's just laughable, because if you know anything, of course, about the life and times of the Christed One rising in the Holy Land, he chastised every time one of the disciples even looked in the direction of a brick being laid for some temple of worship out there. He let them have it, because your Father is within you here, and that every single brick shall surely crumble back into dust, back into the earth, and will not be left standing. So he made it so clear. The tithing that the Bible speaks to, and this is crucial that you understand this, is somebody has to pay. You always have to pay to be able to receive. The paying is tithing. The tithing is 10%, because your left brain is the dime brain, and that's the 10% brain. That's what you must pay with. So listen to what Mimi said about this paying attention. You have to pay to receive attention. What is the left brain? It's chaos. It's Cain who ate Abel. That's crazy. That's chaos. There is no attention in the left brain. So how do you gain attention? You have to pay. Somebody has to pay, and that's the left brain. So this is the symbolic nature of our reality, where every moment we say to the Father, you know best. You know the way. You are the light, and I am the seeker, and I give up. I just want to be with you. Here, please take this monstrosity as my left brain, the 10% offering. When you cross the river, you have to pay the bargeman. You have to pay the ferryman to cross the river. How much does he charge? A dime. Why does he charge a dime? Because it's 10%. It's 10%. To cross the river from the left to the right, you must pay with that dime brain. that carnal brain of greed, lust, and violence, or as the Buddha described as desire. What is the root of all evil? It is desire. The desire to possess something that cannot be possessed. Look at what we've done to, I can't think of, two better examples than Mimi and Colleen of the sacred feminine. You both just to me are just such perfect examples of the sacred feminine energy. And you need to be exalted. You need to be worshipped and listened and learned from and treated with the utmost respect and dignity. And that is the opposite of what we do to this precious earth. We're not learning anything. We're just take, which is symbolic of the left brain, which is, facts, figures, and logic, when we can justify anything. So let me also then quickly segue to the other incredible thing that you were talking about. And you were talking about in the breathing, this pranic breathing. So the prana, which is like the Akashic records, it's the sea of consciousness that we exist within. And of course, this is how breatharians are created. This is how breatharians are possible. You can't do this overnight. It's a process, but this is how people can live forever through the ether, eating all the ether that you want. It's through this pranic breathing, the breathing in of all that there is, which is the prana. And how do you do that? So Mimi just so perfectly described this to us, that when you breathe in, it's an acceptance. You're entering into a contract with God of life. God is the God of the living, not the dead. He's the God of the living, not the dead. That's the contract you enter in with God, is every moment that you breathe in. That's your contract with God, I want to live. Okay, just keep breathing in. Okay? And so you breathe in, it's an acceptance. It's so beautiful, Mimi. It's acceptance. And when we respire, when we breathe out, it's this this symbology of the setting sun. And so what you see with this wonderful example that Mimi gave us is that this is the Egyptian allegory of Horus and Set. So when you breathe in of acceptance to the Holy Father, this is the rising sun in the east every morning, and that's what Horus is. Horus is the rising sun of the Father in the east every morning. So we breathe in acceptance, and we have life, and we're rising in the grace of the Father to the east. And then when we respire, when we stop this breathing in, and we're letting go of, and surrendering, as that was the word I was trying to, the surrendering that we voluntarily do. This is looking the tiger in the eye, and if you must eat me, because I will. Jacob crossing the river in Genesis 32:30. When are you going to stop? Says he wrestled his ego for a day, and what the emissary of God, the angel, says, when are you going to stop? I'm never going to stop. I will not stop in my search for what I need to find. And he says, what is your name? Jacob. Jacob is too poor a name for thee. I shall call you Israel, Isis, Amun-Ra, El, which is Saturn, mother, father, child, Israel. And that's the surrender. That's the surrender, and that's Set. That is the Egyptian god Set. And every day there's this battle between Horus and Set. And every morning when Horus rises, he wins. And every night when he sets and darkness takes control, then Set wins. And it's sun versus Set, sunset, sunset. Every single day is this eternal battle between these two. And you see how Mimi is showing you this in plain sight, how important breath is. That's breath. I'm sorry, but that is the rising and the setting of the sun is shown to you time and again, is in this correct pranic breathing that we must do. And this is the acceptance of the Father, and then this is the trusting of the Father, which is the surrender. If you think I should be exhaling and that I'm going to die upon a cross, I trust you. I trust you completely. I know you will never lead me astray. And then this is where eternal life comes in. When you take the load off Fanny, that great song from the 60s from the band, Robbie Robertson, a great Canadian. Robbie Robertson, and he wrote that incredible song. And take the load off band. He put the load right on me. Me is God. The trust of the shoulders, the trust of the truth in God. And this is everything. And you see this in a single breath. How just amazing, Mimi, is that? That is just absolutely amazing.
It's moment by moment. It's a moment by moment, a surrender of that moment. You surrender that moment, and then you're alive again. And then you surrender that moment, and you go through each day that way. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do to start, to begin, to end.
Yeah. And then tell us a little bit about this through now the yoga that you teach. So like you said in the beginning, it's a slow boat to China if it's not done properly. So if there's no consciousness, no explanation of the breathing, if we don't breathe the Buddha breath, if we're not diaphragmatic breathing, if we're not ingesting the prana, then really ultimately there really isn't a great point to any of this. But when we start with that, when we know that, then the whole other aspect of yoga now suddenly becomes orgasmic. It suddenly becomes larger than life. When you're breathing properly and you have this focus within the temples, then suddenly the yoga that you used to do with upward dog and downward dog, and these things make sense and they start to come alive.
They become magic. Magic happens. And you've mentioned alchemy. It's an alchemical happening. It's a happening. A happening is what it is. So if I start off with a centering, tuning into the diaphragmatic breath, and then generally I move into like a breath of fire, one of the fire breaths, maybe two of the fire breaths, one for making the elasticity, but you used another word for elastic, to make the lungs more pliable. There's the Kapalabhati breath, and then there's the I teach it all the time. I can't think right this second. And so there's the two fire breaths. I can start with one or two of those. By then, the settling has started to happen. The extraneous thoughts in the mind start to drop away. Then you begin the practice of the asanas, and you move into that with the ujjayi breath, with the ocean breath. And you continue like that, and maybe pausing 30 minutes later for another fire breath, and then move back into the asanas again, maybe at a slower pace, and then slowing down until you're in the coming down to almost ready to do your shavasana. And then I incorporate the alternate nostril breathing, the Nadi Shodhan. And that's the cooling breath. That's the calming down breath. That's what just brings you right down. And then you can move into that shavasana and allow everything to integrate. And as everything integrates, then and because of the breath, then there is something to integrate. There are pieces that actually come together, and the body is, even if the mind is not knowing at that time what's happening, the body knows, and the body feels, and the subtle body is in action, and the subtle body is alive and aware and alert and is participating and is benefiting. And later then it's the outer mind that begins to pick up on, oh, well, now I see there's some benefit for me, so let me go ahead and do that again. And so it goes. And so it's a moment by moment, step by step, inch by inch process. It's a process. And just to continue to do it, and then to take on all of the other teachings that you can, that are alive teachings, like Charlie and Colleen. Those alive teachings, make a huge difference, because then you're ready to absorb them. You're ready to take them in and they begin to make sense. Whereas before, maybe they didn't make sense. And maybe there's some things that may take a long time to make sense. But when you and Josh were talking the other day and talking about the sacral plate and the manger in the sacral plate, how awesome was that? I was just like, I just can't believe some of the things that I'm hearing from you. And so I had sort of an impression come to me some time ago after listening to you, and I was contemplating. So I had never really considered, although I knew about the firmament and I know about dimensions, of course, living in certain, dimensions. I hadn't really ever contemplated the flat earth thing, and I've heard it mentioned before, and I leave everything on the table. I don't take anything off. I wait and see, and I ingest it, and I see how it's going to sit with me, and as you do, you meditate on it. I didn't really meditate on it, but one day after listening to you, it came to me, and it just made such perfect sense. I mean, it made perfect sense. We're in this plane of existence. We're in this plane, and there is that dome. There is that firmament. I know that that is true because I have been there to the top of that, to that, like a cathedral ceiling in a way. It was the color, not purple, but the softer purple. The purple is here, but it was more of a lavender. It was a lavender lotus, and I saw it, and I was there, so I know that is the dome, and we are on this plane, and it is our plane of existence. So but you have to be ready. And you have to prepare the soil. You have to prepare you have to prepare yourself by doing the work. And don't fight it. Don't take it off the table. It'll come to you. It will come to you. The truth will come to you, and it will resonate, and you will know. And so people never learn anything by being told. They need to experience it. And the way that you are teaching, and the way that I like to teach, is to lead people into the experiential part of it, so that through direct experience, then they come to know. And we can tell them things. It's fine. We'll tell them things. You've told me so many things, and I've learned so many things. And but I'm open. I'm ready. And so many people are. So many people are, especially those that have done any kind of inner work, any type of work like that. But so that's really, I guess, all I can say about that. But it has to come to you, and it will come.
Again, thank you so much, Mimi. Just an absolutely amazing gnosis and wisdom, and I appreciate it so much. And again, one of the incredible things that you said, you're always using these right words, and then I love just breaking them down. That's what Josh and I love to do. And so one of these expressions that is an old saying, is an ancient saying, is a dark saying of old, is a happening. It's used all the time. It never goes out of style. People are always saying there's a happening. It's a happening. This thing is really happening. It's a happening. A happening is AH. AH is a happening. What does A plus H create? And that is the breath of God. And once again, the breath of God is the Buddha breath, which is this rising first and setting last of the Alpha and the Omega. And the only way to the Alpha and the Omega is through the belly and the bosom and the breast, the mother. It's just incredible. So even in these ancient sayings of old, you see that there's so many dimensions and levels of truth in all of these things. It's incredible. So a happening, to say that a happening is that breath. And this is the symbology of the journey out of Ur of the Chaldees, right? So in the Bible, Abram and Sarai were living in Ur of the Chaldees. That's where the temple of the moon goddess Sin exists. It's where it still exists to this day. And of course, the only sin that we can create is when we allow emotions through the Mary in the moon to rule over our five physical senses. Then we're just an emotional being, and you're lost because you're a victim. You're a victim to whatever emotion wishes to go off on whatever tangent that they want to. There's no stillness, there's no discipline at all of that disciplined mind. So it's a wandering mind is that, and it's a sin. It really is. It's that only sin because it's ungodly. Because when you are chaotic of the left brain, you are not goodly and godly of the right hemisphere of the brain. So, and again, that whole journey of Abram and Sarai, for what? Why? Why did they go again through the desert? Why did God ask? And they were in their 90s. Sarai was 93 years of age. And at the end of the journey, God gifted her with immaculate conception and she gave birth. Okay, so, and then her name changed and it became Sarah and it was Abraham because a happening occurred. A happening occurred. That's the breath of God. The breath of God was imbued within them, was bestowed upon them because they had the courage to go on this journey, and this journey is, again, just changing bad habits into good habits, bad habits into good habits. And that's this journey. And this is that breath of, once again, we just see that breathing is the beginning of all things that are good because it is the basis to all of these stories, all of these metaphors about human physiology. So, and when Sarai becomes Sarah and she is bestowed with immaculate conception at 93 years of age, okay? So 3 and 9 is 12, which is completion, and 1 + 2 = 3, which is the Holy Trinity, Father Abraham and Mother Sarah, and then the child. What was the name of the child? The name of the child was Isaac. And in Hebrew, Isaac is Itzhak. And Itzhak in Hebrew means happiness, joy, happiness. You're going to love this. The symbology of the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and the optic thalamus or the hypothalamus cannot be lost because it's front and center of all of the biblical stories, but it's also front and center of our human physiology because this is the basis to the endocrine system, right? Which is, what does the endocrine system do? It regulates our organs, our 12 major organs, right? It's always 12 around the one. Jesus Christ never went anywhere without his 12 cranial nerves, 12 major organs of the body, 12 constellations in the sky, 12 apostles. Jesus never goes anywhere without the 12. So the endocrine system is this regulation of the 12 organs within the body, okay? And the center of this endocrine system is the third ventricle of the brain, pineal gland, pituitary gland, and the hypothalamus right here. Okay, so pituitary gland, what does it secrete? This is the sacred secretion of these glands, okay, of the endocrine system, glands. What is a gland? It's a G-land. G-land. Glands are God lands. So these secretions are absolutely important for us. And by the way, the only way you can suppress them is by this lack of proper breathing and the crappy food that you take. You destroy the endocrine system by ingesting all of this acidic food. When you're alkaline, then that's all the sacred colostrum, sacred saintly colostrum. Santa Claus is the sacred saintly colostrum. That's all that Santa Claus wants to do, is bestow you with these secretions from the G-lands. And there are 12 glands for these, this essence of the 12 major organs within the body. And so the pineal gland is melatonin. Mela, melita, melis from Sanskrit is sweetness or honey. Pineal gland, pine cone, honey, Joseph to Mary. Pituitary gland is the sacred feminine, the milk and honey of Joseph and Mary, okay, the pituitary gland. Now, the secretion from the pituitary gland in these glands, God lands, is serotonin. You get this? Did you pick that up? Serotonin. What was the name of the Immaculate Conception child given when she took the breath of God and became Seraph instead of Sarai, the breath of God, Sarah, and she was bestowed with child, and it was Isaac, which is Itzhak, which is happiness. And what is the secretion that comes from the pituitary gland? It's serotonin. Serotonin. And what is serotonin known as? The happiness secretion. Serotonin is known as the happiness secretion. And Sarah's child was Itzhak, which means happiness.
You just, it's just perfect. It just, you can't make this up, as they say. Oh, Charlie, that's amazing.
It truly is. And then you were talking about this level earth, that flat earth is a term they use to get people agitated and angry. So I don't even like to use the term flat earth and whatnot. But every, the human body, again, that's why I always say, research the sphenoid bone, which is right here, just above your two eye sockets. And what is the sphenoid bone? It goes it's a flat plane, but it's a circle. It's a circle. It goes all the way around your two temples, in the front and the back of your skull. And it's a flat plane. It's the plane of inertia. The plane of inertia is planet Eartha. The plane of inertia is planet Eartha, and it's in plain sight. If you just knew human physiology, the sphenoid bone is Middle Earth, is this middle plane. Why would I know Mimi gets that. Why would we call that Middle Earth? Because you have the 7 layers of heavenly energy above, and you have the 7 layers of hellish energy below. And see, 7 is scales, right? So everything, colors and sounds, everything is all about scales. Scales are 7s. How do you complete a scale? With an octave. An octave. Octo is 8. 8. What's the 8th level? The plane of inertia is planet Eartha. So where's the only part of our entire reality that is physical, is solid, you can feel it, touch it, and everything else is just, metaphysical? That's the Middle Earth. That's the plane of inertia. We are the octave to these 7 scales of heavenly energy above. And so wherever so now this takes us perfectly back to the beginning of the podcast where we talked about Tesla and about energy and therefore frequencies. Wherever your frequency is, you pull this in to the plane of inertia, and that becomes planet Eartha. Your reality is related to where you're pulling your energy from. So when you are breathing correctly and eating the correct foods, when you are focused, when you are meditating, when you are in control of your 5 physical senses instead of your 5 physical senses in control of you, then you are pulling from above down. You are pulling these heavenly energies. That's your reality. But that guy's so lucky. All the good things in the world always happen to this person because he's taking good thoughts all the time. He's always resonating to these frequencies up here. And then he creates the octave, right? So if you play the scales on a piano, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they're lovely sounds, but they're not whole sounds. They're not completed sounds. When you play an octave, if you play an octave from one level or one scale to the next, to the beginning of the next, if you play those 2 A's instead of an A, if you play those 2 A's and create an octave, it's A. It's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother world. There's a right way to breathe. There's a wrong way to breathe. There's a right and a wrong way to doing everything. And that octave is this completion of our reality. We do this on planet Earth. The plane of inertia is planet Earth. This is where our thought, and that's exactly what Nikola Tesla said, our thoughts determine our reality. And we're drawing in hellish energies from below or heavenly energies from above. So why do you think newspapers are the way they are? Why do you think every Hollywood movie is the way it is? TV and magazines, why do you think they do the things they do? So that you're constantly reminded to pull your reality from down here instead of up here. The manna from heaven is not bread. Manna is a gift of God, and the gift of God is a thought from God, which is heavenly. Heavenly is here, hell is there. Take the hint.
I just think it's perfect. I mean, we walked all the way around the mountain to some, and we circled right back, and we came back. It was just perfect. It was beautiful. Everything is as it should be, and we just need to tune in to the right frequency. We need to do the work. We need to breathe, pay attention. We need to eat right and just take it one moment at a time, one breath at a time, and just move forward, allowing everything to be as it is, trusting and moving forward. And feeding yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually with the correct things.
Yeah, that diaphragmatic breath is pranic breath, and that is the prana. And the prana is what the breatharians are feeding off of in abundance and living forever, and are agile and quick-witted, clever, and they're athletic, and just everything the way we're supposed to be. So and we're going to pass it back over to Mimi so that she can tell us about her book on Amazon and some more details about it. And I'll put all of that in the show notes. But I'm going to just leave everyone from my perspective with this. Again, throughout the show, Mimi has always encouraged us, talk to us about the importance of being in the now. What is the reverse of the now? It's one. When you live solely in the moment, when you solely live in the now, you've won the game. I guarantee you won the game. Something earlier that Mimi said that was incredible, and she was talking about a happening, and then Mimi said it's a process. It's a process. It's a process. It is. Life is a process. A process is part of a game. And guess what? The best game I can give an example of how this should be played is baseball. Baseball, there's no clock. There's no clock on this thing. There's no clock on this thing. There's no clock on this thing at all. So what are you rushing around for? It's a process. Be the observer. Take all the time in the world that you need. I promise you, you will not lose years. Time doesn't work that way. They're lying to you. It doesn't work that way. When you are the observer and see all that there is, time is suspended. It doesn't move. It stays stasis when you are in the now, because you've won. And that's the game of baseball played on a diamond, right? And if we go back to this, again, level Earth on a planet. What is the word planet? Plane, T. What is the T? T is the fourfold nature of man. Head, shoulders, torso. There's the fourfold nature of man. Planet is plane T, is the plane of physicality, is the physical plane. That's all it means. They're showing you in plain sight that the planet is the physical plane, which is that octave that completes everything. So, Mimi, tell us, so is it only on Amazon, or where else can we find this incredible book?
So you can find it on Amazon. I know a lot of people don't like to use Amazon, but that is a good outlet. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Balboa Press. And I think I sent you that link.
That's the one I saw.
Balboa Press. Mm-hmm. And it's eventually going to be on mimigund.com. So I'll have that website up probably in a week or so, and it'll be exclusively on there. I think the best price, though, for it, for the soft cover, which I'm kind of holding up now and showing you, is probably going to be on Amazon. That'll be the best price for the soft cover. And you can get the digital for, whatever it is. But this is such a cool book. I mean, I like just looking at it. I have it on my coffee table. My sister bought one, and she's like, I just like looking at it. It's just so cool. And it kind of has an energy attached to it, a Shakti in a way of its own. And really and truly, because of the masters that I have sat under and learned from, I fully believe that these pages are imbued with their energy. And the teachings in here, because there's other teachings besides just the breath kind of woven in through. They're not my teachings, but they have become my truths. And so it's like yoga. It's like the true yug. It's alive. It's dynamic. It's transforming. It's magic. That's all I can really say. And I think that it's an important book.
Yep.
Many books out there on breathing, many books out there on yoga, but somehow I feel this is different. We're into you can actually enter the path. You can feel it. You can feel yourself step through into a different space and begin the process. We're in the process, but now cognizantly, you can be in the process. You can do it with consciousness.
Yeah, and Mimi, if you can just put the book back up again, hold it
Sure.
back up in plain sight. You know, whether Mimi intended to it or not, the first thing that I see is, of course, is the magic carpet. And you see, because it's a white background, so you don't know where that carpet is. And of course, that's the whole point of breathing and proper yoga, is to become the yogi, and that is you are rising in rapture. So that is a magic carpet. And so the magic carpet, of course, leads us to what we're seeing, which is the goal of this, which you see the head above. And at the top, we have the illumination. You see, that's the genie in the bottle. And the genie in the bottle is the genius in the brain when you take these right breaths, when you follow the yogic practices and you become the yogi, which is one with the Father and the Mother. And it's just so beautiful. So that image is a powerful, powerful image, because that's genie in the bottle, which is genius in your brain. That is the genius inside of you. And that's what this book is showing you, how to take control of the genie in the bottle, which is the genius inside of you. So, Mimi,
and he's throughout the book. And his name, Charlie, his name is G.
Oh,
Right? You talked about G the other day, because you were talking about Gandhiji, but his name is G. And he's throughout, and he's pointing us to different things.
Yes.
And so there's a thing about G in here too. So
yes, and whether it's XI or QI, however, or CHI, however chi, the energy of life, is always the 18. And remember, this is the plane of inertia that is planet Eartha. So the 18, where do you get the 18? We talked about this before, the double sine wave, or the Taurus of the Bible, the two Ouroboroses. You have the upper Ouroboros and the lower Ouroboros connected to each other, and in the middle is that plane of inertia. The middle one is the one. There is your 8, and that's 18. And in every culture, 18 is chi, or G, or G, or G. So it's everything, this breath. And we pointed that out through the palm leaves. Everything is this breath, and that there's a right way and a wrong way to doing everything. Mimi, please say yes to me that you'll be back on the show and we can continue this discussion. And by the way, Mimi is an absolute genius about all subjects, and I would just absolutely love Mimi's take on everything that's going on in the world right now as well. So I forced you on the spot, but is that something that you will kindly agree to?
I would love to. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Thank you so much. And just all my love for your beautiful family. I won't go into any more, but I just feel blessed to be part of your family and your beautiful life and your beautiful experience. You are a very, very special person, but that's because you've done the work to allow that genius in the bottle to be uncorked. And I thank you for that. We all thank you for that. And thank you for this beautiful book. And I look forward to the next time that we get to chat. So thank you, Mimi.
Thank you, Charlie. Love to Colleen.
I will. Thank you and have a great night. And thank you everyone for listening. And we'll see you next time on Freak Sense TV. Bye.